Well, it looks like the final I is being dotted and the T being crossed in the Walmart takeover of Massmart. The Competition Appeal Court has ordered Massmart to contribute 200 million rand to a supplier development fund over the next 5 years as a condition for the approval of the merger. Anthony Norton, the managing director at Nortons Inc, has been watching the story. He's a specialist competition lawyer ever since the story broke years ago now. Anthony, is this it? Is this the final part of the Walmart-Massmart puzzle? Provided Massmart agrees to do this, the deal is done, sealed, and can never be undone.
Evening, Bruce. Yeah, I think the saga is finally over. I saw Massmart's announcement this evening, and I think they've accepted this judgment. So I suspect that this is the end of the road for this case.
Because the original judgment, the competition judgment, said they needed to make 100 million rand available. Then there were various appeals, and government appealed, and we saw unions appeal, and they could have, Massmart, faced a considerably higher punitive charge. They could have had a 500 million rand judgment, maybe even up to 2 billion rand judgment against them. Maybe at 200 million rand, they're getting away with small change.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the economists appointed for government and for the unions motivated for 500 million to 2 billion. But ultimately the court was quite skeptical, I think, about those claims. And I think felt that the economists for both the government and for the unions had overstretched the mandate that the court had extended to them. And I think the court quite correctly said, look, this is confined to the impact on small and medium-sized enterprises as a direct consequence of this merger. And that's really what this analysis should be confined to. So I think it pulled back significantly from the suggestions by the economists for both the government and the unions, and ultimately said, look, 200 million is the maximum that the company's got to pay, and laid out some quite clear guidelines, I think, for how the fund should be administered.
And should Massmart be grateful that this is the settlement, that this is the level at which things have been settled, and should it happily pay the 200 million rand and finally let the deal get underway?
Look, I'm sure they're not happy to be paying any amount. I think they're probably quite pleased that it's 200 million and not the 500 million or 2 billion that the economists for government and the unions wanted. But, I guess this begs the question in multinational deals of this kind about what sort of future conditions will be imposed on transactions of this nature. Because, clearly the issue is, if there's any threat to South African employment opportunities as a consequence of a global deal, is this likely to serve as a precedent for future cases? And I think that's really going to be the significant issue going forward. From a Massmart Walmart perspective, they're probably, I think, quite pleased that this matter is finally at an end. But it does beg the question about future conditions of this kind for deals of a similar nature going forward.
Anthony Norton, Managing Director at Nortons Inc.